Carla, and welcome back to the studio, and Happy New Year. This is the first of the month. It's January 1st, 2024, and this is our monthly Christmas card inspiration. Now, yeah, Christmas is over, and yeah, why am I still making Christmas cards? Well, the whole concept behind this monthly Christmas card inspiration is for those of you who would like to create your Christmas cards throughout the year. And that way, come December, you have them all done, and all you have to do is write in your cards, address the envelopes, and mail them out. So for this month, I will be featuring the Tidings and Trimmings photopolymer stamp set, and that coordinates with the Christmas Trimmings dies, and then also with the suite of this products. There's this 6x6 DSP. This is the Tidings of Christmas. We'll be using this on both of our cards. And then also in this suite of products, there's the Evening Evergreen Chevron Weave Ribbon. We'll be using this in our second card. So let's get started with our first card. So for my cardstock pieces, I have a piece of soft Succulent. This measures 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4.25. I have a piece of cherry cobbler. This measures 5 by 3.75. I have a piece of basic white that measures 4.75 by 3.5. And then I have a 4.25 by 2-inch scrap of basic white. And then I have a 3.5 by 1/2 inch piece of the Tidings of Christmas DSP. So to get started, I'm going to fold and burnish my card base. Okay, and I'll set that aside. And then my cherry cobbler, this will be a layer. For my basic white piece, my larger one, I am going to be using this embossing folder, and this comes from the Wintry 3D embossing folder. So it comes with one with snowflakes, one with the evergreen, and I'm going to use the one with the evergreen, and I'm going to emboss this piece of basic white. And then this layer of DSP, after I emboss that piece, this will be adhered to the bottom, so I'm going to set that aside. And then on this piece, I am going to do my stamping. So I'm going to bring in my stamp set, and I did not mount these on the box beforehand. Yeah, okay. This is going to be good. So let me just quickly put them on my box. And then I'm going to bring in both my Evening Evergreen and Cherry Cobbler inks. And I'm going to stamp each of these stockings in each of the colors. So the one that is more solid, I'm going to ink that up in my Cherry Cobbler. And I'm going to stamp that. Get this inked up really well. Okay, and I'm going to stamp that up in this corner. So this piece is going to be big enough for me to stamp both these stockings and die cut them. Okay, so we're done with that. And then I'm going to bring in my Evening Evergreen. And I'm going to stamp this other stocking. And I'm going to stamp that over in this corner. Okay, so that's all the stamping that we're going to do for this card. So now for this part, I'm going to speed it up. I'm going to die cut these stockings using this die from the Christmas Trimmings dies. And then I'm going to emboss this piece of the basic white as well. So I will be right back. Okay, so let me bring in all of my pieces. So for this basic white piece, let me bring in my silicone craft sheet because since this is white, it'll be a little bit easier to see this. Now for this piece of DSP, I'm going to bring in my seal and I'm going to add some adhesive to the back of this. And I'm going to adhere this to the very bottom of my piece of basic white. Just make sure that's centered on there. Okay, and then we'll just press that down. Now my cardstock was a little bit wider than that embossing folder, so there's a little edge that doesn't have any embossing, but that's not too bad, so that's good. Okay, so I'll move that out of the way. I'm going to add some adhesive to the back of my basic white. And I'm going to adhere that to my layer of cherry cobbler, like so. And then I'm going to add adhesive to the back of these pieces. And then I'll adhere that to my card base. So for this card, to mass produce it, the best way to do it would be, depending on how many cards you would like to make, cut all of the card bases and all of the cherry cobbler layer, the basic white, your DSP, and then, stamp all of your stockings and then die cut them and then just have all the pieces all set and prepped. And then all you have to do is assemble, and assembly is fairly quick. So for both of these stockings, I'm going to add some dimensionals to that. So I'm going to bring those in and I'm going to add 3 to them. Okay, then I'm going to remove my paper backings. Okay, and then I'm going to add my cherry cobbler one right over. I'll bring this down so you could see it, like right here, and then my green one will be right here. Now I'm going to bring in my Winkostella and I'm going to add some to my stockings. So by using this Winkostella on this, it is pulling some of the cherry cobbler ink. So after, and it is filling in like some of that white space that's on the stamped image. So that's okay. Just adding a little bit more color to this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to brush off my Wink of Stella on a piece of scrap before I do the evening evergreen one. So then that way we don't transfer any of that ink. Okay, so I'm going to brush some on here. And this as well, it'll end up pulling some of that evening evergreen ink. Okay, and then I'm just going to clean off that tip. So that way the next time we use this, we won't transfer any of that ink onto our new project. So then I'm going to bring in my garden gems. These are soft succulent and these round ones are cherry cobbler. So I'm going to add some of these to my card. So these, what would, it escapes me as to what this shape is called, but I'm going to take 2 of these soft succulent pieces. I'm going to add 2 of them, one on the bottom and one up at the top here, and try and get them straight. And then I'm going to take one of my larger round cherry cobbler ones. I'm going to add that down here, and then 2 of my smaller ones. Okay, come on. We're going to add one up here. Now this cherry cobbler, when you look at it at one angle, it kind of looks green, and then when you look at it at another angle, you actually see the cherry cobbler. So these are like really cool, iridescent looking embellishments. So that is our first card. On to our second. Okay, so for our second card, it's going to be a little bit simpler. So I have a piece of evening evergreen. This measures 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4.25. I have another piece of that Tidings of Christmas DSP. This measures 5.25 by 4. I have a 2 by 2 scrap of cherry cobbler and a 2.5 by 2.5 inch piece of scrap of basic white. So I'm going to start off with folding and burnishing my card base. Okay, and then I'm going to take my piece of DSP and I'm going to add some adhesive to this. And I'm going to center that on my card base. Like so. Okay, and then on my white piece here, I'm going to bring in this stamp that says "Cheers from our home to yours," and I'm going to bring in my soft succulent ink, and I'm going to ink this up. And I'm going to stamp this in the center. Okay. Actually, that didn't stamp really good, so let's turn it over. We do have 2 sides to our cardstock, and let me re-ink that again. And let me stamp that again. Okay, that looks better. Close this up. So I'm also going to bring in my 1 3/4 inch circle punch, and I'm going to punch out my cherry cobbler. Now this piece isn't a really large piece, so I'm going to use the putty end of my take your pick tool just to kind of move it into place and punch it out. And then I'm going to bring in my 1 1/2 inch circle punch, and I'm going to punch out our greeting. So I'm going to center that, punch that out, and then I'm going to add some adhesive to the back of this greeting, and I'm going to center that on my cherry cobbler circle, like so. Okay, and then I'm going to put some dimensionals on this. Okay, we're going to set that aside. And then I'm going to bring in my tear and tape and this evening evergreen chevron weave ribbon. And I only need a piece that's going to go across kind of like the base of my card. So it only needs to be the same length as the width of our DSP, which is 4 inches. So I'm just going to cut a little extra like so. And then I'm going to bring in my tear and tape, and I'm going to add this to the back of it. And we're going to use this to hold our ribbon down to our card base. And get it in the center there. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in one of my acrylic blocks. This came from one of the kits. You can see it's a little bit different than our other ones. This one has a bit of a sharper edge, and it's not as thick as our other ones. So I'm going to use that just to have a nice tore edge at the end of our ribbon. So then I'm going to take this and just kind of press and burnish that adhesive into the ribbon. So I'm going to just place my greeting where I want it to be, and I'm going to remove the backing of that adhesive, and I'm going to add this. I'm going to try and have it centered about here on my card, like so. Make sure that's straight. Okay. And then I'm going to snip off the ends here. Try and get it straight and even with the paper. Okay. Let me get that little piece off of my hand. Okay, and then we're going to take our greeting and I'm going to place that about here. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in these embellishments again. And this time I'm going to use 3 of these larger cherry cobbler round ones. And so we're just going to add this little pop of red to our green card. Okay, so that is our second card. Let me remove this and bring in both of the cards well, the other card that we did. So this was our first card. This one has a couple of more steps with doing the die cutting and the embossing. And then for this one was a little bit simpler. Just, the DSP and then using a punch and then just adding the embellishments. So if you liked this month's Christmas card inspiration cards, please give the video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. It does help me in growing my channel. So again, this episode of our monthly Christmas card inspiration is on January 1st of 2024. So happy New Year to everyone. And I hope that your New Year's Eve was nice. And here's to a very blessed and prosperous new year. So I will see you next month with our next Christmas card inspiration. Bye bye and be blessed.